Well, I started teaching back in '96, I suppose, in Wappingers Falls. I was fortunate because I never had to sub. And that's not very common for art teachers because art positions are a little less available than many other teaching positions. My mother-in-law was quite worried that I wasn't going to be able to find a job when I started studying art ed. But anyway, I was lucky. I found a job my first year part-time and then the second year full-time. And then my third job was here in Ellenville.
I started in 1995, about 26 years ago.
When I graduated from university, then I started performing first. I was a performer and professional singer and traveled the country doing shows. And then when it came back to when it started Monticello, then we moved there because my wife taught, and then she was hired in Monticello, and I started teaching privately. So I gave a lot of voice classes and piano classes and things like that. And then started in the public school probably in the mid-90s in Monticello. I had graduated with an education degree, but I thought it would be more interesting to sing first. Then I realized when I started, there wasn't that much money in it when I was getting started. So teaching was better. It was a little more steady. And because I was away performing in Boston, and my second son was born, and I was supposed to have a week off the next week. Everything at the due date was good. He came early, so I missed the birth. And that was sort of the beginning of the end of the performing part of it. So, but probably the mid-90s was I started public schools.
I began teaching in the 88-89 school year. That's like 33 years ago. I graduated half year, so I didn't start the full school year. So I subbed my first, the second half of after graduating. I worked in Kingston, Rondout, and I became the gym teacher. As soon as they saw a young guy that was athletic and he can do gym. So it seemed like I was a substitute gym teacher every day until I was told I can't. I was having the kindergartners do calisthenics and push-ups and sit-ups, and apparently kindergartners aren't supposed to do those things. But I had fun. And then I used to take those little dollies that the kids sit on and stuff, and we'd take a rope and I'd run around the gym pulling all the kids around, and they loved for me to be a gym teacher because I broke all the rules probably.
'01, I think. '01 or '02, maybe '03. I didn't think about it that clearly.
I started in 1995. That was my first teaching job.
2005. Seems like a century ago.
I started at Ellenville in maybe '01 or '99, something like that. I can't exactly. Actually, my 19-year-old son was a baby, so it was 19 years ago. And when I came in for my interview, I said, I can't come in right now. My wife's not here, and I'm watching. I have the baby. And they said, oh, come in. And Mrs. Pike actually watched my newborn and took care of him during my interview.
Wow.
So she still remembers seeing Brennan, who's now about 6'1" and with a beard, and as a baby.
Well, I got my final degree in New Falls, but I started school in Penn State, and I wasn't in the field that I should have been in. I was in engineering, and it was not for me, and I ended up, leaving Penn State without a degree, and then when I was working for IBM and my wife and kids were very young, I decided to go back to school and finish my degree in education, which is where I was kind of leaning towards when I left Penn State.
I got it at SUNY New Paltz. I got my master's there.
I was a voice major at Fredonia. As a music ed major, we have to pick whether we're going to do vocal or instrumental concentration. So I was a singer all through Fredonia and a voice major at Ohio State also.
I got my teaching education at SUNY New Paltz. Yeah, I went to a small private school, Hobart William Smith, upstate New York, but it just wasn't a great fit for me. So I ended up going to SUNY New Paltz, like as an interim thing, and I ended up liking it. So I stayed there and got my undergrad there, and I got a BS and a minor in geology and education, and then I went there and got my master's degree as well.
Well, I always like working with kids, and I'm kind of a big kid myself. I'm sure people have noticed that. But I enjoy working with kids, so it was always a good fit. So, but the field I was going to go into was questionable. I was thinking math for a while, maybe some science, I don't know. I never considered art, but it was kind of funny because I knew I was going back to school, and I had to decide on, okay, what am I going to teach? And I never considered art, except that my stepdaughter Carly, who was in kindergarten at the time, was always watching me do artwork at home. And she's like, well, why don't you be an art teacher? And it was like being hit upside the head. I was like, yeah. That just never even crossed my mind until she said it. And then as soon as she said it, I was like, yeah, that's it. That's what I got to do.
How old were you think, when that happened?
How old was I?
Yeah.
Oh, it was in like 92, 93, so I was 32.
Well, that's pretty interesting. I was an engineer for 9X, and after I had my second child, I decided it was too hard to go to work every day and have two children at home, so I chose to stay home, and I started volunteering in my kids' schools. So, and I just thoroughly enjoyed it. I actually started a volunteer program at the North Salem School with the principal and a couple teachers. And we trained parents and grandparents, aunts and uncles, anybody that wanted to come in, how to come into a classroom and how to assist the teacher. So I did things like computer training, because my minor's in computer science. And I did reading, and I actually even wrote a little skit and put on a little play with second graders. And I just constantly got told, wow, you're a natural with kids, like, why don't you become a teacher? And then my husband took an early retirement and moved us up to our mountain home. And I couldn't go back to engineering when I was ready. So I said, maybe I will become a teacher. So I already had a math degree, a bachelor's of math. So I just went back and got my master's in education. And here I am.
Well, because I started to, I think it was sort of in my blood also, because both my parents were teachers. Actually, they were both music teachers in Saratoga Springs. And so I always was comfortable with that. And I was always sort of a music nerd. So I always knew I wanted to do something in music. And I liked the educational part of it. And I liked being able to, hopefully share positive moments with students and bring that in. But I thought, teaching was great. I like working with kids and younger students. Not that these are kids, but young adults.
The younger members of our...
The younger members of our society.
I don't know. I never thought, like, if you asked me in high school, I'd be like, oh, I'll never be back, And maybe around sophomore, junior year of college, I was looking to go into like medicine or research or some sort of science. And then I started looking at, being a student at 30 years old, trying to go into medicine or something. And I was like very anxious to start working and get rid of my old junky car and get a job and actually have some money for a change. And then teaching, my parents were educators. So my dad started as a teacher and eventually became school superintendent. That's why I moved to Ulster County. My dad was the Rondout superintendent. That's why I moved here. And my mom was a high school math teacher. Once all the kids were out of the house, she went back to teaching. So I was from a family of educators, and it was good to us. And you have great time for your family and your friends, and you can travel. And I enjoy I've done a lot of traveling and stuff. and it became a much better profession in our generation. Like, you know, it was back in the day, all teachers had to work 2 jobs to make a living. Mm-hmm. And in my generation, it seemed to become more of a profession. Mm-hmm.
Well, I kind of wanted to teach when I was in Penn State back in the mid and late 80s, but it wasn't finalized until, you know, I went back to school in New Falls. I was just trying to find a field that I would be happy in, because if you're not happy with what you do, then you're not going to have that much motivation to do it.
I think when I was volunteering in the schools, I just had so much fun listening to kids and seeing the light bulb come on and seeing how creative they were at such young ages. I only worked with little kids, you know. It was just eye-opening to see kids interact on a daily basis, and to see teachers that care so much about somebody else's child, you know, and all the work they do besides just teaching them. And I just said, I think this is me.
Mm-hmm. What grades did you end up teaching when working for Ellenville?
Well, that's interesting, because my certification is pre-K through 6, and then I went on to get the extension 7 through 12. And then I looked at the job of an elementary teacher. Kudos to them to teach 5 different subjects and get all those lesson plans ready. And I'm like, I think I just want to teach math. So I took the tests for high school also. So I did 12 or 13 years in the middle school before I came up to the high school.
Probably in probably the beginning of high school, because I had always been involved in music, and my parents were teachers. And when I was going through high school, I was approaching senior year, there was nothing else that I could think of that I'd rather do. So I immediately went into thinking about education, and specifically music education.
That's when you try to work out, can I do both?
That's right. And actually, when I went to Fredonia, started Fredonia, I was definitely going to be a teacher. And then I left Fredonia and then immediately went into grad school. And at Ohio State, I started singing more intensely, and I was in more shows and more operas. And that's, maybe this singing isn't such a bad thing either. And so then when we came back to, we were done with Ohio State, and if I'm going to sing, I have to be closer to New York City. So my wife blanketed the area with resumes and stuff, and Monticello was higher. So
not until maybe junior year of college, it wasn't something that I really thought I would do. And then it just all happened, and it just fell right into place. And strangely enough, I'm sitting in a high school, but I'm certified to teach nursery school as well. I have my N through 6 certification, my 7 through 9, and then I also have high school science, a couple of sciences.
So when you first started, I know you said you were subbing. When you first started, either subbing or full-time, what grade levels were you?
I subbed elementary, middle school, and then I actually taught elementary school for 14 years.
Okay. And when you first came to Ellenville, what grades did you?
I came here as a high school teacher. So I made the jump from, I was in Monticello, which was great to me. I had good memories there. The challenge, that town has its challenges, like all of them. Yeah. And as a matter of fact, I taught Mr. Trombley's son probably about 30 years ago.
Just to enjoy what you do and enjoy the time you're here, because it goes by more quickly than you anticipate. I can't believe that I'm 60 and then I'm going to retirement. I don't think it's really settled in yet. Have fun with it and be passionate about it. Follow your passions. Whatever you're interested in, you can get other people excited and interested in because you are. I think your own energy is kind of helps stimulate the kids when you're excited about doing something.
Oh, I kind of made some bullets here. I was thinking, be flexible. Understand your role in your students' lives. You know, what impact and what do they see you as. Lean on your colleagues. The people here at this school, you need something, they're there to help you. Don't think that you have to do everything on your own. I think you have to build relationships with your students. If they trust you, they'll open up to you and they'll be honest with you. And big for me was to make my classroom a positive experience, that no one asks a silly question. If you ask it, there's at least 5 other people that have the same question. No one was ever allowed to make fun of anybody. I mean, it was just, this is a place where we're all learning. And be friendly, but be firm and establish rules. It can't be chaos. They have to know when they come in this room, this is how we act. And reflect on your lessons. What worked, what didn't work? How can I teach that better? I found if the whole class bombed a quiz, I had to look at me. Like, why did so many kids not do well? And I would have to reteach it.
For present and future teachers, I think it's going to be important to, I think, sort of try to figure out a way to have a smile on your face. You know, figure out a way to stay energized, and because this is a great job, and the kids can be just wonderful to work with. Also, they can also be trying at times, but then you gotta. Yes. He's giving me looks. What? You know, but Jay, you have to keep going. You have to show. I think you have to show them how much you enjoy this, and know that it's you can make, hopefully, make a difference in somebody's life, and as it just maintain your youthfulness. I'm always accused that I haven't passed my being 12 yet, but you try to keep what? So you try to keep going, but have energy, have enthusiasm. Show the kids that you care about them, and you're interested in what they have to say. Sometimes.
Well, you have to be flexible. I mean, things, especially in the past year, if you haven't been flexible, you broke. So, be flexibility helps. Be willing to try new things, and embrace technology, because I think that's where the future is. I struggled. I treaded water for the past 2 years, and it was able to do, the online thing. I'm not claiming to be an expert, but I think we got by. And but I think the future of teaching is going to be an integration. I'm not sure if it'll ever be the same.
Well, I don't know. I really enjoyed working here, and I don't know, there's a lot of good people here. It's a great faculty and great staff, and I've never really had any problems with anyone. It's just, it's a good place to work. And I know you can't say that for a lot of districts. There's a lot of turmoil in some areas from what I hear, but I don't hear much about that here. It's everybody seems to get along and work together and kind of have the same goal. So, and a lot of good caring people here. So I'm glad to have spent my career here, most of my career here. And also be sure to have Reggae Fridays, because Reggae Fridays are a good positive thing. And I've gotten a lot of students that said they didn't like reggae, but over time they kind of wore on them, and I think they almost like reggae now.
That's the emotional part. To me, working here, I have met the truly caring and dedicated group of people that I've ever met in my life. If you need help, they're there for you. If you need support, if someone in the community or a student needs help, this place dives right in. So I think in good and happy times, we come together. In very sad times, which we've had quite a few over the years, we still rally together and come together. And I think the people I've worked with for the past 26 years are truly the cream of the crop. It's a great community, and it's just been an absolute pleasure to work for the school.
The Ellenville family, Ellenville's been great to me. I mean, I tell my friends, it's a hidden gem of Ulster County. It really has its, and we have our challenges like every community, but it's, we have our strengths also. And the people here are great people, great community. It's been good to me. And it's funny, retiring, I just sold my home, which is in Rondout next door, and I might be moving. I just made an offer on a house, and I might be moving right into the village of Ellenville. So there's my Ellenville message: is you might have me to keep. One last thing, I just bumped into one of our new teachers. Apparently, Mr. Dawson was just hired as a new math teacher, and he was my student. Which to get to see, I'm starting to see a lot of that, which is nice. But you said, what should I tell the young teachers? What I told him in the hallway was invest your money. Tax sheltered annuities, a 403b. It sounds crazy. I started maybe midway through my career, and I have more money than I thought I'd ever have stashed into my own retirement fund. And if you start small, I mean, you got new teachers need to do it. Put away a little bit of money in that 403b. You could have $1 million of your own savings, plus your retirement, plus Social Security. It's one of those things that people, don't seem to know about, but a little money at a time. I think Albert Einstein said the greatest thing he's ever discovered on Earth, or not discovered, but the greatest thing he knows is compounded interest. So invest your money.
That's a good question. The message would, I think, just to continue to sort of, maintain. Ellenville is a good little town. I don't know if I should say little town, but it's a great place to be, and it's kind of nice where it's sort of you're in a place everybody seems to know each other. Also when I was growing up, with the bigger towns, you sort of get locked into your grouping pretty quickly, and then you miss out on a lot of other things. But I think maintained. Stay positive, stay encouraging. This is a good school district. I think we care about education itself and trying to make it a better place. And lots of times the towns are sometimes what their schools are, and so I think it's encouraging. I think we just keep going and having fun with it. I will see you all on the flip side.
Hofnagel out.
O'Connell out. Thank you.
Trombley out.
Out.